So also would like to thank the Ministry of Energy for their hospitality. That workshop has been organized. And I would like to give an opportunity for the welcoming remarks to Mr. Bahram Bekov, the Deputy Director of the Project Office of the Ministry of Energy of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Mr. Marbekov, please, floor goes to you. Thank you very much. Which language am I supposed to? English, Uzbek, Russian? Доброе утро, уважаемые дамы и господа. Мне очень приятно выступать в качестве докладчика на этой конференции. Я глубоким there is one. Well, let's start from the chat, from the Zoom participants. Well, the question is coming from Mrs. Bayhanova, UNDP. Каково существующая доля с точки зрения солнечной ветряной энергии в группе энергетических источников? Ну, второй вопрос не совсем понял, честно говоря. Там говорится, ну, вы знаете, учитывая то, что последние 3 года у нас была засуха, доля возобновляемой энергии, в частности, солнечной, ветряной и водородной, не так уж большая. Как и вы видели в моей презентации, доля солнечной, она не высокая, это около 100 мегаваттов. Это 1,6% от общей энергии, вырабатываемой в стране. Ветряная, солнечная, это длится от 12 до 14 часов всего лишь. И в общей доле генерирования оно составляет очень незначительную сумму. Помимо этого, засуха также у нас отбросила назад по выработке водородной энергии. В 2020 году мы видели, что менее чем 2%, опять же, исходило, 20% исходило от возобновляемых источников. К 2030 году мы должны производить как минимум 25% от общего электроэнергии, которая производится в стране, как раз таки должно исходить из возобновляемых ресурсов. Но цель это все-таки 50%, как минимум. Долгосрочная цель. Спасибо, спасибо. И второй вопрос. Второй вопрос касается, как вы определяете, например, или как вы определяете на возобновляемые энергетические ресурсы. Что доходит? Вы знаете, список очень большой. Если вы обратитесь в lex.uz и вобьете там, я знаю. Действительно, вопрос заключается в следующем, оказывается. Насколько вы включаете, например, крупные гидростанции, мелкие гидростанции, солнечные, ветряные. Для Узбекистана определение какое возобновляемых энергоресурсов? Мы являемся частью человечества, которое проживает на нашей планете. И то, что классифицирует весь мир как возобновляемое, это и есть. Это солнечная, ветряная, это гидроэнергия. Конечно, это биотопливо, которое можно также генерировать. Да? Ну, в основном это и есть. Хорошо, спасибо. Yes, please introduce yourself. Yes, I'm doing so. Shukran Inside from the Agency of Innovative Development. I have the following question. As to our knowledge, there was prepared the draft of the grid codes. I just wanted to know what is the status of this very project. Well, the Office of the Minister of Energy, Mr. Kholisel Nurdinov, will reply to this question. Good morning, distinguished participants, dear colleagues. Yes, it's true. The experts of the Ministry of Energy, together with the international consultants, have developed the drafts of the grid codes, these are transmission code and distribution code. At the current stage, transmission code is being reviewed by the Ministry of Justice, and distribution grid code is on the finish line. So in a couple of months, basically, we'll submit it for the approval and we'll submit it to the relevant ministries and institutions for their review. Well, as such, I would like to add that grid code is available. It used to exist because you cannot live without it. It's a compilation of rules with regard to the maintenance and exploitation of the grids. But we're adding there certain elements, as I have mentioned, so that we can get prepared for the transition to the market-based approach. So it basically doesn't change much, I mean, technically. Well, maybe they are introducing we have introduced some new rules, like how we need to get connected, how we should behave. But as for fundamental requirements, they are the same as they were. I mean, technical requirements. Are there any more questions, please? Well, if you allow me, I would like to add some more information to the previous question mentioned by Ms. Behanova. The law on the renewable sources of energy is the law 539, adopted in the 2019. So according to which the renewable source of energy includes solar, wind, geothermal, water flows, biomass, and so on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Rahim Jan, please. Distinguished Bahram, I have one question. What is the status of development of the production of and the use of the liquefied natural gas in the energy sector of Uzbekistan? Because this winter it clearly demonstrated that there is no enough amount of gas, so that's why we had to import gas from other neighboring countries. So for this certain period of time, we have been experiencing this big deficiency. Is there a technology on the machinery on production of liquefied natural gas? Is it available in Uzbekistan? Because during summertime, we have excessive amount of gas. It should be transformed to liquefied form and it can be stored in a better or more effectively. What extent there is a plans to use this LPG in our country? Well, there are LNG, I'm sorry. Well, there are different technologies and different titles. Well, let me clarify certain things. There is, for instance, when they speak about the liquefied natural gas, they mean liquefied petroleum gas. This is the combination of gases. It's not a combination, actually. It's more like a mixture of propane and butane. So sometimes more propane, sometimes lesser propane. So it's just kind of a gas that you can store under relatively low pressure, like 10 or 15 atmosphere of bars, and under such a pressure, it gets transformed into the liquefied form because the point of heat is not that high compared to the natural gas. Now, in the winter, when the temperature is -20, you can simply think of, I don't remember which one, propane or the butane, because some of them have the hot point up to 0 degrees, or boiling point, basically up to 0. So basically, in -20, it becomes liquefied in its natural form, or LNG, liquefied natural gas. When under the temperature -180 and with a very strong pressure, I think 200 bars, gas transforms, natural gas, methane, transforms into the liquefied form, but the technology is very complex. And it's used for the maritime transportation of the natural gas. So this technology has been invented in somewhere in the 70s, when they learned that there is a big deposits of gas are available in Australia, in the Middle East, and this gas should be somehow transported to Korea and Japan. So that's why they have invented, I don't remember who was working there. I think Japanese have founded this very technology, these very big tankers that employ these like 3 or 4 dome-shaped balls. Looks like the vessels are basically carrying big domes, but actually under the domes, it's liquefied natural gas, which is strongly cooled and under big high pressure. And there is a technology, CNG, compressed natural gas. When without cooling, they simply compress gas. You can see the technology everywhere. It's very popular in Uzbekistan to basically install the mini CNG tanks on the vehicles, which can keep up to 200 bar pressure and use natural gas basically. So many countries of Europe, many households in Europe and America, they use, they don't have centralized gas distribution grids like in Uzbekistan. They use LPG or gas oil So right next to their house, they have a big tank where they put the gas in, and they store it for winter use and for daily use. Gas oil, LPG, LNG. LNG is used only on, liquefied natural gas is used only for the industrial scale purposes. This is quite complex technology. CNG. Well, this technology, they have been introduced this technology quite lately, basically not long ago, because it requires a certain reductor of the tank, and to keep gas under 200 bar pressure is not that difficult, but there were more problems with the reductor. So they invented the reductor. It has been automated with the help of the electronics, and now CNG can be used. So you can keep several tanks. So in summertime, you can fill them up with the gas when nobody needs gas, actually. And then in the winter, you can simply use it, enjoy it. But the problem is that many households in Uzbekistan, they don't know about this technology. And they believe that the state has to give them gas in any amount, regardless time of the day and weather conditions. But it doesn't work in this way. Many doesn't want to understand this issue. So when people start understanding this, and they will be purchasing these very tanks to create underground storage facilities, and then of course they can take good benefits from this. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I think now we can switch it to the next part of our workshop. The presentations related to instruments that will be used for implementation of the project. More specifically, these are next step tool. And now I would like to request to put on the screen the presentation of Vitaly Becker and Anis Zazanon. These are our consultants from UNECE and SCAP. And as to my knowledge, presentation will be rendered by Vitaly. And I will like to request Vitaly to start presentation. And the colleagues, please put presentation on the screen. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Do you hear me? Yes, Vitaly, we hear very well. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. It's a great honor for me today to make presentation before such a distinguished audience, representatives of the stakeholders of Uzbekistan. We represent the program, which is titled Next Step 2, developed for planning purposes to attain the SDGs on implementation of the energy sustainable technologies in Uzbekistan. Next slide, please. So for your convenience, I'm going to make a presentation in Russian, and we have the slides. Now we have slides in English, and Anis Zaman is right now online, and he can also provide some answers to your questions after my presentation. So today we'll discuss with you how the planning happens for Sustainable Development Goal number 7 in the energy sector. I will also speak about the background of the SDG SED roadmap development that will help development in these very areas. What is an SDG 7 roadmap and how it helps to attain the SDGs at the national level? We'll also conduct or present the samples for the next step methodology implementation for the sustainable development of energy sector, as well as we're going to present the results in those countries where the roadmap has been using, and the methodology of calculations coming from the practice of other countries, please. So, as it has been mentioned today, the SDG number 7, which is targeted to promote affordable and clean energy for all, has several major targets and indicators that are mentioned at the global level, including Uzbekistan, having adopted the implementation of this very indicators, is getting in the preparation process for accomplishment of this very goal, and to collect the statistical information according to the requirements of international reporting. And the targets and indicators are well indicated on the slides. The first target is to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy for services for all, as well as to increase the sustainability of the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix, and double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency technologies. Next slide. With the framework of implementation of these various goals, there are several integrated approaches to energy transition by 2030. So there are global targets on emission of the greenhouse gases, as well as access to the energy security, new technologies, access to electricity, access to clean cooking fuel, as well as technology of renewable energy and energy efficiency. The development of these very areas is ensured through it will ensure the sustainable economic growth, creation of the new jobs, increasing urbanization in the countries, as well as to resolve the energy security issues, access to the energy resources, and of course the resource availability and the reduction of the cost of the energy produced, because you're using more effective technologies. Next slide, please. And the methodology which has been developed, as well as the relevant toolkit, which is called the Next Step tool, will allow to ensure this very integrated approach for experts working in the area of development of legislative acts and policies related to the implementation of the sustainable energy and transition to the green energy through the energy transition in the light of the SDG number 7, please. The methodology Next Step is composed of the following components, 3 steps, basically, as indicated on the slide. And the first step allows to carry out the modeling, as well as the calculation of the energy resource data, parameter setting. The second step is the macroeconomic analysis and the use of different scenarios, which will help us to analyze trends in the sustainable energy. And to understand different scenarios, pessimistic and optimistic scenarios based on the parameters that you set. And the third phase or the step is the analysis of scenario for the development of the policy usual documents that will require certain criteria of assessment and, of course, best practices, which is available in the international arena.
First component, methodology. It is dealing with modeling of energy and emissions as well, undertaken using low emissions analysis platform. So that's the consumption. And the LEP platform, which has been developed by the project. So the platform allows to apply different scenarios, potential capacity consumption by the sectors, by different types of energy resources. So it can help the development of the optimization, cost optimization, and using the proper expansion and dispatch for the electric power. Second component is the analysis, economic analysis, that covers different types of analysis, cost estimate analysis, and it gives different scenarios. It can be given as a task to do the assessment, different indicators of efficiency, and also development of different types of energy. My apologies, Vitaly. You have a background noise, yeah, from the microphone. Yeah, yes, thank you. Second component, that's the economic analysis that foresees calculation and forecasting of the energy cost, and also provision of different types of resources, energy resources to the final customer, and efficient ways of transferring to other types of energy, and while using different contracting approaches like the RE auction or PPA. So it also helps to make decisions on future power supply options for different categories of consumers, depending on what are the results applicable there at the those ones which we've obtained at the stage of modeling. Then assessment of the potential for increasing share of RE, renewable energy, in power in general plan for generation within the region or the country. Next slide. Next component is making decision on introducing corrections while developing policy documents, or those which are there would be based on economic criteria, and we apply multi-criteria decision analysis, MCDA, which is a popular tool in the public and private sector to help in making policy decisions and develop strategies, undertake strategical decisions. So it allows to compare and contrast various policies and scenarios, applying a number of defined indicators. It also allows to avoid gaps while implementing it, taking into account the results of the analysis, and it is ideal for the stakeholders. Besides, it brings us to proper consensus, weighted consensus among the stakeholders, those who will be applying or implement different decisions or additional technology to achieve the SDG number 7. Next slide, please. So here are several slides which are covering the status of Uzbekistan with regard to implementation of SDG 7. Those areas has been already covered by my previous speakers. I don't want to repeat myself. Those are the assessments which has been done by the ESCOP. IRENA, and it was done in 2022. Besides, we also provide some data, generalized data on energy and emission, energy generation, and carbon emissions. Well, next slide, please. And under the IRENA, again, 36/2022, well, there was another assessment done on Uzbekistan with regard to renewable energy potential. So it has been already covered by my previous speaker, so I don't want to dwell on that. So this diagram reflects all those areas which has been already voiced, and that has been already covered by promoting the policy on implementing the REs in Uzbekistan. Expected outputs with regard to implement while applying the assessment and development of roadmaps for SDG implementation number 7. So energy demand and supply scenarios there shall be developed using different types of criteria, which would allow to assess parameters of business as usual, like current situation, and also different models like CPS, and the system allows us to do it flexibly. We may say online regime is applicable even. Next area, there are certain solutions on prioritization for different scenarios. You may select the results based on the criteria. You may establish a willful policy and proper implementation of all the steps, and you may see the forecasted results or the outputs. See, well, and then you may compare with the actual results while applying the projects in reality. Indeed, application of this solution will allow developing policies and strategic documents to implement at the national level, the SDGs, but also from the point of view of achieving SDGs for the whole world, etc. Next slide, please. Next step tool. It is already a well-prepared online portal. And when you introduce data, so when you input data, you may obtain your own individual access, and then you may obtain analysis, and you obtain very interesting products. Data graphs can be downloaded. You may access from wherever you are. An interface is quite user-friendly, so you see it on the screen. So working with our consultants, you will be able to get your own login and password, etc. So you will be able to completely use in full capacity of this instrument. So these are reports which are generated by the system. So majority of those graphs and indicators may be also used to prepare official reports at the level of the country or inside of one ministry or a department. So it's a standard form. You may obtain these graphs in dynamics for current moment while implementing within some period of time. And you may also perform tracking of the results. Next slide, please. So this slide covers the whole process of developing roadmap using next step in order to improve the achievement of SDG 7 at the national level. So I don't want to dwell on that, of course. There are certain stages, obviously. First stage, it is country engagement. So stakeholders involvement or engagement, and that is what we do right now. Then data collection, modeling, then we have to develop number of training courses. We have to develop roadmap itself. And then, of course, it is national acceptance. So the ownership by the country. Up to date, we are at the stage number 1, country engagement. So we are presenting methodology at the country level, and we're starting getting data. So in order to perform modeling and then to develop the roadmap. So we work together with our national consultants, experts. They have been presented in the beginning of this conference. And by the end of the day, we will be doing modeling, and then we will be presenting you the steps which are recommended while implementing the roadmap. Next slide. This slide provides you with a detailed structure of the roadmap on implementing the SDG number 7 and the energy sector. So the final document, which we are pursuing to obtain. So you will be obtaining that as the result of your analysis. So you may see that there are certain recommended parameters, current situation, and there are certain steps that shall be implemented in order to obtain recommended indicators, which are estimated at the level of modeling. Next slide. So that work is being done not for the first time, several years. It is quite successfully applied in a number of countries. You may see here the well-developed, the roadmaps done. It is Bhutan, Fiji, Georgia, Nepal, Vietnam, Kyrgyzstan. So we have representatives from Kyrgyzstan right now here. Tatiana, she will be sharing her experience. She will have this great opportunity to share their experience in developing a national roadmap. So we also welcome discussion here, of course. Were there any successful implemented recommendations, etc. So you may look into those roadmaps in detail on our website, and our team, of course, based on the request, is eager to provide you with some additional information and access to any roadmaps of those countries listed. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done with my presentation. And should you have any questions, I'd like to remind you that we have our colleague from the company, and we are ready to answer any questions of yours. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vitaly. Like before, we will hear the questions. I'd like to pass the floor to our consultant in Uzbekistan, Mr. Rahimjan Bobohajayev. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you, Vitaly, for such a detailed report presentation. I just wanted to add on my behalf what is going on right now while implementing this project in Uzbekistan. Next Step tool provides for the comprehensive approach in Uzbekistan to develop comprehensive roadmap to cover the whole energy sector, which would take into account all the linked intersectoral rings, and it will be based on supply and demand. Identifying the share of different energy resources to identify proper technological capacities, to perform economic analysis to get the understanding of all those results. As it has been already mentioned by Vitaly, the next step is a table to obtain data for data collection, and there are 9 positions that you have to fill out. Allow me briefly to cover those main areas, because for us, we truly need to gather data, to collect data, to fill out those tables. And I truly want you to understand better what are those data to be collected. So first, those are general data. So you ask population, demographic growth is interesting, is of an interest, the per capita development, then the households, the primary generation of energy sources, export, import of those, and final consumption of the energy of power. We also have to identify certain indicators for the Republic. So the first indicator will be the share of population that have access to power, to electricity. Number 2, share of the population, which is mainly using ecologically clean types of fuel and technology. And number 3 indicator, share of REs in the final amount of consumption. Number 4, energy capacity, which is measured by for the primary energy, so microjoule per US dollar. Number 2, households, residential areas. We have to identify and provide information on the average consumption and the need or demand, type of energy consumption, energy capacity, and then types of use of fuel, etc., etc. So number 3, devoted to industrial sectors, where we have to identify industrial use based on industrial sector, food, chemical, construction, building, metallurgy, textile, leather production, and many others, motor vehicle and many others. Number 4, transportation. So we have to provide the following information: what types of transportation are being used in the Republic, public transportation, which of them are run on biogas, kerosene, petroleum, or natural gas, and many others, or like oil byproducts, etc. Number 5, those are commercial enterprises. So we have to identify how much energy and what types of energy are being used by supermarkets, hotels, universities, clinics, religious, and other buildings. Number 6, other sectors. which hasn't been listed before. So in the Republic of Uzbekistan, and all of them shall be mentioned. Number 7, the cost. So this part is devoted to the cost of energy resources. We have to provide the average cost for power, for energy, for the fuel to cook, the fuel to heat, for transportation. So we mean all the types of different types of fuel. Number 8, it is devoted to the load, what types of forms of electrical load. There are annual, monthly load, peak load, etc. And also overage tariffs, which has been adopted for export, import of energy sources. Number 9, so we shall collect data based on different rates, based on the units, types of fuel, and the temperature of burning them. So I've covered only some elements, but in reality, we truly need a lot of data. We have to be provided with precise and accurate data for us to be able to develop the documents properly. So for the current seminar, we've invited the stakeholding agencies, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Construction and Utilities, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Employment and Reduction of Poverty, Ministry for Higher Education, Science and Innovation of the Republic of Uzbekistan, and also the Agency on Statistics under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Academy of Science, and representatives of other public official bodies, business, and different industrial experts. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to all the participants of today's seminar workshop for their active participation. I'd like to address you, all of you, my dear colleagues, and kindly ask you to support us in collecting these data, which are very much needed for us to develop our roadmap for the Republic of Uzbekistan, to provide access of our population to reliable, modern sources of energy as soon as possible in the nearest future. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Rahim Jan. I'd like to support the request of Rahim Jan. Truly, in order for us to obtain proper outcomes while applying next step instrument or tool, there shall be good data collected to be inputted to the model. And Tatiana will also share her experience from the experience of Kyrgyzstan. One of the objectives of our today's seminar is to gather those representatives of public official bodies and other organizations that are could be a support of quality data for this process. And in the result, that will bring us down to development of a proper roadmap to implement SDG 7, and probably will be applied by Uzbekistan and will be useful for Uzbekistan. That's the main objective of our today's workshop, to share this information with you, to raise your awareness, and to invite you for collaboration. So are there any questions regarding those presentations which we just heard, presentation of Vitaly and the remarks of Rahim Jan? Please. Good morning once again. One question I have. What are the deadlines of developing the table, or first table and then the roadmap? I understand that it depends on data collected, of course, but nevertheless, I truly hope that there is certain schedule. Yeah, there is a timeline. Yeah, that's a great question. And we do have challenge to gather information, and it's challenging. And the process is very slow, maybe because there is a restructurization process of the Cabinet of Ministers. But nevertheless, up to date, we had to provide main data on the next step tool. But specifically, what is the deadline? Maybe it will be mentioned by esteemed speaker. Well, since we are right now by the end of, well, so it is the end of January and beginning of February, of course, the table that has been mentioned by Rahim Jan shall be filled out already. As for the timeline, Анис, скажите, пожалуйста, буквально несколько слов, может быть. So as you've heard, by the end of March, that would be the timeline that has been established by Ani. So we may, probably we shall fill it out by the end of February. What do you think? Yeah, of course, we kindly ask you to provide us with the needed information as soon as possible. And if I may, next question. If, let's say, by the end of February, March, we will collect all the data, then we will have to fill out the next step, and then we will enter next step, right? The tool itself.
Right. Thank you for that question. Yes. So thank you for that question. As Vitaly presented, you remember that there were a couple of processes. So once we get all the data, completed data and verified data, and Uzbekistan government approves those data, then we'll start the modeling and analysis on our side. And that can take up to another 2 months, depending on the complexity of the energy system. So we roughly indicate 2 months from there. So it will be, let's say, end of March, then April, May. And by end of May, if everything goes as per plan, we'll have the results and key findings in our hand. At that point of time, we'll develop a scenario highlights, which is the document just summarizing all the key results and findings. It's not the roadmap document, but a summarized results document that we'll share with all the stakeholders for their review and comments. Not comments, but for their review. At that point of time, we will also conduct a stakeholder consultation workshop. In that workshop, will present all the results and findings and invite comments and suggestions. There might be some suggestions that something needs to be changed depending on what comments we get. We will revise the results and modeling, and using that's final set of modeling will draft the roadmap. So in terms of timeline, we are saying that sometime in early June or mid-June, we'll have the stakeholder consultation workshop. And following that, the roadmap, draft roadmap will be developed or prepared sometime by end of July. And then again, it will go for another round of review for the roadmap document. And by August, end of August or early September, we should have the kind of final version of the draft roadmap. So one thing I would like to emphasize here is that the level of consultations that we will undertake with the stakeholder. This is a country-owned document. It is not an ESCAP or ECE document. It has to be accepted and recognized and approved by all the stakeholders and the country government itself, so that it becomes a country-owned document. So there is a huge amount of consultations involved. And so everything, if goes as per plan, we should have the roadmap, the final version of the roadmap in hand by September. And the following that, we'll just do some English editing or other language editing, I would say, and then layout design, and then we'll be ready for officially publishing the roadmap sometime in the beginning of October. Over to you, Oleg.
Ines has clearly mentioned, and I hope that all of us will be facing with the quite tense for the next 6 months, and we know why we're doing this. Actually, we know the final results. If no more questions, I would be happy to give the floor to our colleague expert from Uzbekistan, Mrs. Tatiana Lebedenova. That she's a person that she was going through all of this in Kyrgyzstan, so she can share with you her experience in terms of what can be used in Uzbekistan and what you need to avoid probably. Tatiana, floor goes to you. Thank you very much, Oleg. Could you put on my presentation on the screen, please? The presentation was prepared by UNECE, I can tell you immediately. I will be doing I prepared some additional information so that I can tell you whatever scenarios we have done and prepared. So it's true, we've gone through the entire process and we have collected everything, we have analyzed everything, we have finished the roadmap in English and in Russian. The one in Russian basically is still in the process of the final editing and revising, and soon it will be presented in the final format to our ministry. So first, you'll take certain type of baseline here. The information available for the last baseline here. We had information for it's like for 2018. And we started the activities in 2020. So the basic year was 2017, the baseline year. And as Vitaly has mentioned, SDG 7 has specific indicators. So indicators for Kyrgyzstan like access to electricity like 100%. Now it's not that best quality. 78 is like uninterrupted access, but access to the clean fuel for the food cooking 68% only. So majority of the households in the rural area, they still cook on the fossil, on the manure, dried manure, and so on. Yeah, is the share of the renewable energy 18.5%. So what were the scenarios we have looked for? Firstly, as things remain unchanged, like regular course, and then the current policy. So if all the policies that exist in our country would be implemented, and then the scenario of accomplishment of SDGs, and there were 2 more scenarios like increased emissions. We have also prepared developed a roadmap, and we were indicating that by 2030 we'll reach about 60% of the reduction of the CO2 emissions compared to 1990, and the conditional targets. If we'll have the financial support, we'll reach about 43% of reduction of the emissions compared to 1990. So this scenario was well developed in two options. The first option, when we concentrate on the high energy efficiency and transport, and the second is when we simply generation will be transmitted from the coal to renewable energy. When you will be selecting scenario, it's really important to consider how you see them, because this type of modeling happens with the assessment, like what we would like to achieve first. So by 2030, for example, in order to accomplish SDGs, these indicators for the renewable energy, another one. So for the parameters of every scenario, they have common parameters, and there are certain separate individual parameters. Like to what extent we expect that in every scenario, the access to clean fuel for the cooking will be available, energy efficiency, and energy generation. So what do we have? What are the results? As for the first indicator, access to the energy is 100%, but access to the environmentally clean fuel and food cooking energy for all other scenarios, but the regular course of activities is the same basically. And on the basis of the analysis of technologies that are applicable for Uzbekistan, because we took into account the cost of energy, possibility of the use of the natural gas, and so on. So we have selected induction ovens which have been recommended for Kyrgyzstan. So Kyrgyzstan was recommended to switch for cooking to power ovens or electricity ovens, so that by 2030 will reach the share of access, 100% of access for the clean fuel for cooking. As for the renewable energy sources, we have the deficiency of the energy in the country already. It starting 2014, as you can see from the right on the diagram. Now, by 2023, it's about 10-15% of the electricity deficiency. So we're trying to import it and to get it somewhere somehow. So this is the current plan. Well, we're planning right now by 2030 to increase to 260 megawatts only of our generating capacity. So it will be deficiency anyway. So should we consider the scenario of accomplishment of the SDG, then it assumes the increasement of the generation of renewable energy by 30%. And if we look at the scenario of higher ambitions, sustainable transport, then it will be 40%, and phased abolishment of the coal, it will be 45%. So the share of the renewable energy will increase anyway. As for the SDGs, it's about 5 gigawatts, because the right now it's like 4 gigawatts. So roughly, in order to accomplish the SDGs, we need to increase our generation from the renewable energy to the same amount. We need to double it basically, which is quite problematic. Here you can see the renewable energy resources as of the SDG scenario. From the right, you can see the diagram, the current scenario. Practically half is the biomass and hydro. And if we would like to obtain SDG 7, from the right, there's a column. Hydro still will remain high, biomass, solar, wind. That will be the part of our generation mix. Micro stations, 4 megawatt, solar 4 megawatts. As for the energy efficiency, the roadmap recommends to deny technologies contaminating environment for food cooking, and the energy intensity almost 7.5 megajoule per GDP dollar. It's also recommended that, basically, we don't have such a gasification. Well, majority of the rural households, they use coal. To change this in the near future cannot be done, because I have mentioned there's a deficiency of electricity. In generation, they will anyway continue using the coal for a certain period of time. So it's recommended to use higher efficiency ovens with the lower emissions. There are such technologies, and we consider them we include them into our roadmaps on this scenario. So we increase the energy savings. From the right, you can see the diagram for cooking and for heating, and how much of energy can be saved. Second, introduction of the standards of the minimal energy efficiency, which we already started under the energy resources use. So upon the implementation of these recommendations, energy intensity will basically reduce to 4 megajoules per GDP dollar. So the analysis demonstrates that the highest capacity is available in the transportation sector to increase the energy efficiency. And another important area of the policy, the map basically includes a lot of recommendations, and the most important one, as I have mentioned, the access to the clean energy technologies for the cooking. And as soon as we switch from the biomass or from the dry manure to the induction ovens, will immediately reach the SDGs. As for the heating, we need to switch to the energy saving ovens, continue using the coal. Electrification of the transport vehicles is the most important area, which can bring a lot of positive and will reduce the greenhouse gases. And the effect should be for the private, because municipal transport is not big share. So we need to make great efforts so that basically all will switch to the electromobiles. And this is the biggest problem, actually, because in Bishkek, practically, we're always on the top with regard to the contamination of air. Very bad ecology in Bishkek, because of excessive number of vehicles. Increasing efficiency throughout all the economy, which also can provide good results. So in this very paragraph, you can also see the replacement of heating, electricity-based heating to the heat pumps. This also provided good results. And separate scenario, if we decarbonize our energy sector, for the production of the electricity, it's about 8% only coming from the power stations. Should we replace it with the renewable energy stations, then we can reach the SDGs and the clean access to clean electricity very fast. So the data for the electricity in Kyrgyzstan is available. You can go to nextenergy.org, and you can find there all the data, and you can look to those various scenarios developed, and you can even play with some of the parameters to see, like if the electricity power has to change, and if the recommended technical proposals or economic analysis will change. So that's all my presentation. As for what's going on now, we already had the measures on introduction of electric transport, mainly in the state sector, public sector. Now the Minister of Economy is considering implementation of the more effective measures to motivate the use of electromobiles. So we're making efforts to introduce the renewable energy resources. Not successful much, because the cost of the energy for the population is about 102 per kilowatt per hour. I don't know what is the price here in Uzbekistan. What is in Uzbekistan now? So you have 2 cents. In our case, it's 1 cent. So we're planning to increase it to 130 soon. So anyway, still, it's a very cheap price for energy, which is not really stimulating people to use more effective, efficient sources for heating. As for the duration for the development of the roadmap, we have been hit by the COVID. And several ministers have been changed relatively respectfully. Deputy ministers, there were challenges in terms of the collection of information. So I'd like to call all of you, should you have information on the transport sector, on the private sector, on the commercial sector, please submit it to the local consultant. And by doing so, the process will go faster. So you can use recommendations, specific recommendations that you have seen with the specific technologies that will be submitted for the development and improvement of your energy policy. Should you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tatiana, for such very useful information you shared with us regarding experience of Uzbekistan. I will ask the same question. Do you have any questions? Yes, I have a question. Very interesting. Thank you very much. How have you calculated the access to the clean fuel? The percentage, I mean. The clean fuel for the cooking, you mean? Well, there were certain assumptions. And the last census was that in 1998-9, I guess. And we have the availability of the ovens, electricity-based powers, ovens in the households. If no, then we assume that they use coal or dry manure, biomass. So these are the basically assumptions based on the census. So can we go back to my presentation? The last one. They were charged with a generation. Can we put my presentation back, please? For generation. As I understand, as a result, the generation will reduce, or we will introduce the efficiency, so lesser will be consumed, but the population is also growing, the demand is growing, consumption is growing. Considering that you're using this very scenario, I assume that the consumption also will grow. There is no way that it will consumption will go down. Energy efficiency is growing very high, and because of this, we can reduce the consumption. But I understand your question. Okay, thank you. You can check the results of the energy modeling in the next step portal. So when you will be modeling, you can also verify the results, and we'll go through that with Vitaly by all means. Our consultants, I would like to submit them a couple of pieces of information. In Uzbekistan, 100% of households, small, medium, and large-scale businesses, they have smart metering devices, and they're already working like for the last 2 years. Somebody has installed like 3 years ago, somebody a bit later, but all households do have it. So this gives us great opportunities. Similarly for the gas metering devices, the households that have the access to the natural gas, currently all of them are equipped with the smart metering devices, which again provides a great opportunity to collect data, so you can measure on a daily basis consumption. I mean, I think no one has done it so far, but it's doable. So great opportunities are there. Thank you. Are there any more questions? If no, thank you very much once again, Tatiana. And then we'll go to final presentation in our agenda. Mr. Ilya Babakhanov, the head of the sector of statistics, the Agency of Statistics under the Office of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Mr. Babakhanov, please, floor goes to you. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I would like to say, as for the data collection, when the calendar year is finished, so which means until February 16th, will submit, all the companies will submit their reports, which includes information about the used power, natural gas, and they will provide all this information. Then we'll have the ready data by the June of by the end of June, actually. So somewhere after June, around June, we'll have the information, full-fledged information for 2022. We have also asked us for monthly or season by month. We don't have such information. Maybe the Ministry of Energy, basically, I believe they do maintain such reporting. We do have such information, but for large-scale companies. As for the small businesses, medium companies, and micro firms, they submit only once a year. We cannot submit information by month. So that the micro firms and the small businesses, they submit information only once a year. So that's why we don't have the information by season or by month. As for the season by season or by month, we can submit information only by for the given year only. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? I'll try to answer. Thank you, distinguished Elio. Are there any questions to Mr. Elio, representing the Office of Statistics and the Office of the President? Okay. When your organization can submit the relevant information, and I think we cannot stop on the just one event to submit information, because information collection takes a lot of time, and we'll be working on this, I think, on a regular and permanent basis in order to share information. Can you say a few more words? Well, we may have certain delays because not all companies are submitting the reporting on a timely basis. Sometimes they submit quite late, so it takes time, basically. We also are verifying reports, we check them, we compare it with other reports. That's why it will take some more time. So clarified data will be, or clean data will be ready by June, because we have a program approved by the cabinet ministers. End of June, actually, the information will be available. Prior to that, I don't think so. Thank you. I have another question. There is such information which is kind of classified for the public. State data. Alec probably also know about this. How we're going to act on this, I cannot tell you like what the data. But are there any data, basically, in the statistics of Uzbekistan? And should we have such data? Can we have access to them in order to increase the accuracy for the events? Yeah, we do have some classified information, which is submitted through the special channels. You can submit your request through the channel, and we'll try to answer them. It's only for the office use only channel. As for the companies, it's also considered to be classified. Because the law on statistics basically prohibits disclosing such. Okay, let me share my own thoughts on this. As far as I understand, The question with regard to the breakdown by companies, we don't need this. The breakdown by sectors, when such data is aggregated, probably it's possible. So let's try to work on the edge of art of possibility. So let's exercise pragmatic approach. There is a table which includes requires specific parameters, which are preferably to be filled. So let's be based on that. So if it's open data, then no problem. But should we face with certain issues like certain data is not open, it's classified, but it's needed for the model. Let's try to resolve it based on the individual case, rather than discussing it theoretically. As soon as we're faced with the problem, let's try to resolve it then. Let's hope that it will be resolved. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the great information that has been provided. We only have a session for questions and answers, but since we were able to ask questions within the workshop, so shall there be any other questions to any of our presenters or participants, please? We also have our colleague from a UNDP, Mr. Israel John, and we work with UNDP for quite a period of time, quite productively. So we are planning on a joint project to be implemented, and Simon has referred to that, and Uzbekistan is the beneficiary, and also Kyrgyzstan is beneficiary to that project. So just wanted to emphasize once again, probably some of you know him. Well, just wanted to introduce him. So UNDP is a huge team that works on energy efficiency, on RE, and many other matters. Access to energy. Well, please welcome. Maybe a couple of words. Thank you very much, Oleg, for giving me opportunity to say a couple of words. Thank you very much for all these great presentations, and so we're all well aware on where to go right now, and well, to how to provide better. Right now, we have provided like with better objectives. Just wanted to add that we continue our efforts in this regard. So we worked with transportation as well. We have a very ambitious project with Ministry of Transportation. It is the investment in low carbon vehicles. So just last year we've started another this project, so we will continue implementing that within 5 years. We will be sharing our results on that because it's very much needed for the better analysis of the next step and developing the roadmap for Uzbekistan on SGD 7. We also have other areas of collaborative efforts, so in a rural area, housing, energy efficient housing. This may be also used, and Simon has referred that we work with UNECE, and we've developed a survey on the air conditioning sector, on improving energy efficiency in this sector. And last area is the development of national action plan on air conditioning, air cooling, that has been developed by the UN. So finalization of this product is ongoing. So in ministries in January and agencies has obtained the draft of this plan. So those who received it already, please comment on that. So for us to be able to improve it, to improve this national plan because it's linked with the SDGs. So it would be a well-integrated plan then to use it further for sustainable development of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Well, thank you. Thank you all. And I thank each and every of you for great participation in this event. Thank you. Thank you very much, Israel John. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for your active participation. I'd like to express my hope to continue our collaboration. We are in the beginning of our project. It is for 3 years, so 1 year is over until the middle of 2024. I truly hope that we will be able to cover a lot. So once again, I'd like to thank UNDP, who is helping us with logistics in organizing this today's workshop, and I'd like to thank Quadra service team. Thank you very much, all the interpreters. And I know what is it to be an interpreter, so thank you so much. Thank you all and see you soon. But before we leave, it is a coffee and some snacks provided to you. So we would not call it a coffee break because we're done. Thank you.